The containment field just collapsed, and the humans complaining about shoulder pain. Kael'thas's three eyes snapped to the monitoring station, his chitinous fingers flying across the holographic display. Impossible. The quantum containment field surrounding patient 09 had just dropped from maximum integrity to 15% in under 3 seconds. The Velcrin dignitary inside the medical pod was dying, had been dying for the past 4 hours from what the diagnostics kept insisting were gravitational anomalies incompatible with organic life. According to YouTube analytics, 98% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, Chief Medical Officer, the patient's cellular structure is continuing to collapse, Vexia reported from her station, her voice tight with professional control that barely masked rising panic. Gravitational stress markers are still climbing. We've tried every stabilization protocol in the database. I can see that, Vexia, Kael'thas said, forcing his own voice to remain steady. This made no sense. The Velcrin were a hardy species, evolved on a high-gravity world. Their bones were dense enough to serve as hull plating on smaller vessels. Yet somehow, in the past 6 hours since arriving at the Galactic Council Emergency Medical Facility, the ambassador's entire skeletal system had begun compressing as if exposed to the gravity well of a collapsing star. The problem? There was no collapsing star. There was nothing that should be generating these readings at all. Sir, I've run the gravitational sensors through 3 complete diagnostic cycles, Vexthul called from the physics station they'd hastily set up in the corner of the medical bay. The physics specialist's crystalline form refracted the harsh emergency lighting in a way that made him look even more agitated than usual. They're not malfunctioning. The readings are real. There's a gravitational anomaly in this facility that registers at 9,807 meters per second squared. That's impossible, Kael'thas said flatly. The station's artificial gravity is calibrated to 6.2 meters per second squared, standard council protocol. Nothing in this facility should be generating. The door to the medical bay slid open with a soft hiss. Hey, sorry I'm late, Dr. Emma Johnson said, walking in with a travel mug in one hand and a medical data pad in the other. Traffic from the residential deck was insane. Also, I think I need to take a break from the gym for a few days. My shoulder is killing me. Kael'thas watched in mounting horror as the human doctor casually strolled past 3 separate quarantine warnings, completely oblivious to the flashing emergency indicators that would have sent any other species running in the opposite direction. The gravitational readings on his monitor immediately spiked another 2%. Dr. Johnson, perhaps now is not the best, he began. No, seriously, I think I overdid it with the resistance bands yesterday, Emma continued, setting her coffee down on a nearby console, causing 3 separate alarms to trigger as the localized gravitational field fluctuated and reaching up to her left shoulder. Her fingers found the Velcro fastening of what she'd always called her therapeutic shoulder wrap, a weighted band she'd been wearing since before she'd joined the station's medical staff. This thing has been digging into me all morning. Do you mind if I just... Dr. Johnson, wait! But Emma had already peeled back the Velcro with a soft ripping sound that seemed to echo in the suddenly silent medical bay. The weighted band came free from her shoulder. The room exploded into chaos. Every alarm in the medical facility shrieked to life simultaneously. The containment field around patient 09 didn't just collapse, it shattered. The quantum barriers disintegrating like tissue paper in a hurricane. Kael'thas felt his legs buckle as his weight suddenly tripled, then quadrupled, driving him to his knees with a force that sent cracks spiderwebbing through the reinforced deck plating beneath him. Vexia crashed into her monitoring station, her exoskeleton groaning under stress it was never designed to withstand. Across the room, Vexithul's crystalline form hit the floor and literally couldn't get up, pinned by gravity that could not exist in this environment. The medical pod containing the Velcrin ambassador buckled inward with the screech of protesting metal. "Oh my God, what's happening?" Emma's voice cut through the cacophony of alarms, genuinely concerned but still standing perfectly upright, the weighted band dangling from her hand like it weighed nothing at all. Kael'thas, why is everyone on the floor? The gravity. Kael'thas managed to gasp out, his respiratory system struggling against the crushing pressure. His vision was starting to narrow, darkening at the edges. Across the room, he could see Vex Thul's crystalline matrix beginning to compress, stress fractures forming along previously flawless geometric planes. "Put it back on!" Vexia wheezed from where she'd collapsed against her console. "The band! Human! Put the band back on!" Emma looked down at the therapeutic wrap in her hand, confused. "What? This? It's just a weighted shoulder!" "Now!" Three voices screamed simultaneously with what little breath they could draw. The overhead lighting fixtures shattered. Emergency bulkheads began sliding into place, responding to gravitational readings that exceeded their safety parameters by a factor that made the automated systems think the station was falling into a black hole. In the medical pod, the Velcrin ambassador's vital signs were plummeting faster than they'd been before Emma arrived. Which was, Kael'thas realized with the crystal clarity that sometimes comes in moments of absolute crisis, exactly the problem. The gravitational anomaly that had been slowly killing their patient for the past 4 hours? It was standing right in front of him, apologizing and hastily refastening a shoulder wrap. The moment Emma secured the Velcro, the crushing pressure vanished. Kael'thas sucked in a desperate breath, his respiratory system flooding his body with oxygen it had been cruelly denied for what felt like an eternity but had probably been less than 30 seconds. Around the room, others were doing the same, gasping, wheezing, struggling back to their feet with the wide-eyed look of people who'd just survived something that should have killed them. "I don't understand," Emma said, staring at the band on her shoulder like it had personally betrayed her. "What just happened? Why did everyone collapse? Is it a station malfunction? Should we evacuate?" Kael'thas pulled himself upright using the edge of his monitoring console, his legs still trembling. The readings on his screen made his blood run cold. The gravitational anomaly hadn't disappeared. It had simply decreased, gone from collapsing star to merely planetary surface of a death world. It was still there, still radiating from the human doctor standing in the middle of his medical bay, asking what was wrong with her shoulder wrap. "Vex Thul," Kael'thas said, his voice hoarse. "Tell me I'm reading these sensors wrong." The physics specialist slowly reformed his posture, checking himself for stress fractures. "You're not, Chief Medical Officer. The gravitational field is still present. It's just contained somehow, suppressed." His crystalline eyes fixed on Emma with something approaching existential dread. By that band on her shoulder. Emma looked between them, then down at herself, then back at them. A laugh escaped her, nervous, confused, completely inappropriate for the magnitude of what had just occurred. "Okay, you're going to have to explain this to me like I'm 5, because I have no idea what you're talking about. This is literally just a weighted wrap for my rotator cuff. My physical therapist recommended it." Kael'thas opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. How exactly did one explain to a human that she was, functionally, a walking gravitational catastrophe? Before Kael'thas could formulate an answer that wouldn't sound completely insane, the medical bay doors burst open again. Station Commander Azila strode in, her 4 arms already gesturing commands to her security detail. Her scaled face was set in an expression that Kael'thas had only seen twice before, both times when the station had been under direct military attack. "Evacuation order, effective immediately," Azila announced, her voice cutting through the lingering alarm sounds. "All personnel are to clear decks 7, 8, and 9 within the next—" She stopped mid-sentence, her primary eyes locking onto Emma. Her secondary eyes darted to the sensor readouts on the nearest console. "By the ancestors, the readings were coming from medical—" "Commander, I can explain," Kael'thas started. "All non-essential personnel, evacuate now," Azila barked into her comm unit. "Medical emergency protocols. Establish a 3-deck quarantine perimeter around this location." Emma's eyes went wide. "Wait, What? 3 decks? Commander Azila, I don't understand what's going on. I just took off my shoulder wrap for literally 30 seconds and everyone started. Your shoulder wrap, Azila repeated slowly, like she was testing the words to see if they made any more sense the second time. They didn't. Dr. Johnson, I need you to remain absolutely still and not remove any articles of clothing or medical devices until we can establish what's happening here. It's not a medical device, it's just a weighted band, Emma protested, her confusion shifting toward frustration. I got it from a sports medicine store on Earth. It helps with my rotator cuff injury. You know, from the gym, exercise. This is insane. Kael'thas pulled up the gravitational sensor logs on his primary display, then transferred them to the main viewing screen. The graph showed a relatively stable baseline reading, still elevated above station normal, but manageable, with a massive spike corresponding exactly to the 30 seconds Emma had removed her wrap. Dr. Johnson, he said carefully, choosing his words with the precision of someone defusing a bomb, humans generate gravitational fields. Emma stared at him. Then she laughed, a genuine disbelieving laugh that echoed oddly in the tense atmosphere of the medical bay. No, we don't. That's not how gravity works. Gravity comes from mass, from planets and stars and... She paused, her expression shifting as she processed what she was saying. Wait. Are you saying I'm too fat? Is this some kind of weird alien body-shaming thing? No, Kael'thas said quickly, raising his hands. No, it's not about your body composition. It's about your species. All humans generate gravitational fields that are incompatible with most known life forms. That's ridiculous, Emma said flatly. I've been working on this station for 6 months. I've performed surgery on 14 different species. I've had lunch with half the crew. Nobody's mentioned anything about me being a walking gravity well before. Vexthul approached cautiously, his crystalline form still bearing visible stress fractures from the earlier incident. Dr. Johnson, the readings are cosmologically impossible, yet empirically verified. Your species generates a gravitational field measuring 9.807 meters per second squared. That band on your shoulder is somehow suppressing it to manageable levels. But even suppressed, you're generating nearly 40% more gravitational force than our station standard. No, Emma shook her head. That can't be right. I would know if I was generating a gravitational field. Other people would have noticed. The entire scientific community on Earth would have... She stopped. Her face went pale. Oh my God, she whispered. You think we don't know? You think humans don't know we do this? You don't? Azila asked carefully. Before Emma could answer, Vexia called out from her monitoring station, her voice tight with pain. Medical emergency! I'm reading injuries consistent with gravitational stress exposure on... She checked her console. 7 crew members. No, wait, 12. All personnel who were on decks 7 through 9 during the incident. Get medical teams there immediately, Kael'thas ordered, then cursed under his breath. His medical teams were already stretched thin dealing with patient 09, and now they had 12 more casualties from gravitational exposure, because a human had removed her physical therapy equipment. Emma was already moving toward the medical supply cabinets. I'm on it. Where do you need me to? Stop moving! 3 voices shouted simultaneously. Emma froze mid-step, 1 foot raised. What? Why? Because every time you move, the gravitational readings fluctuate, Vexthul explained, his voice strained. You're creating gravitational waves. Small ones, but on a quantum level. Every motion you make is like throwing stones into a pond, except the pond is space-time itself. Emma slowly lowered her foot. Her hand unconsciously went to her shoulder, adjusting the Velcro on her wrap to make sure it was secure. This is insane. This can't be real. I'm a doctor, not a physics experiment. As if to punctuate her disbelief, she reached up with her other hand to further adjust the wrap. Her fingers slipped. The weighted band loosened. For one horrible second, it started to slide free. The deck beneath them groaned, a deep, resonating sound like a ship's hull under stress. In engineering, 3 levels down, every proximity alarm activated simultaneously. The lights flickered. Somewhere in the distance, metal shrieked against metal as structural supports compressed under sudden, impossible weight. "Don't drop it," Azila commanded, her forearms bracing against the nearest bulkhead as the station itself shuddered. Emma's eyes went wide with panic. She grabbed for the wrap, fingers fumbling with the Velcro, trying to secure it back in place. But her hands were shaking now, and the weighted band, seemingly with a mind of its own or perhaps responding to the very gravitational anomalies it was meant to suppress, slipped from her grip. The band hit the deck with a soft thump that shouldn't have carried any weight at all. The entire station lurched. It wasn't an earthquake. Those happened on planets, where tectonic plates shifted and ground moved. This was something else entirely. This was a structure designed to exist in the stable environment of orbital space, suddenly experiencing gravitational stress it was never engineered to withstand. Bulkheads buckled. Support struts compressed. In the walls, the very molecular bonds of the construction materials strained under forces that should not exist outside a planetary gravity well. "Pick it up!" Kael'thas shouted, clutching his console as everything not secured began sliding toward Emma like she was the center of a whirlpool. "Pick it up now!" Emma bent down, a simple motion just bending at the waist, and the station groaned again, deeper this time, a sound like a massive beast in pain. She scooped up the band with one hand, moving what should have been maybe 200 grams of weighted fabric, and somewhere in the infrastructure of the station, a primary support beam cracked. "Critical system failures on deck 6, 7, and 8, Vexia reported, her voice climbing toward hysteria. "Life support is fluctuating, structural integrity at 67% and falling. Emergency bulkheads are engaging, but they're not rated for this kind of—" Emma wrapped the band back around her shoulder and secured it with shaking fingers, pulling the Velcro tight. The gravitational readings immediately dropped back to their suppressed levels. The station settled with a final groaning complaint. In the awful silence that followed, Kael'thas stared at the human doctor standing in the center of his medical bay. She looked terrified, confused, and utterly normal, just a woman in medical scrubs with a shoulder wrap, holding a now-cold travel mug of coffee. Except she wasn't normal at all. "Dr. Johnson," Azila said slowly, her voice carrying a weight that had nothing to do with gravity and everything to do with dawning, horrified comprehension. "How much do you weigh?" Emma blinked. "What? I'm like 68 kilograms. "Why?" "You move that band with one hand," Vexthul whispered, his crystalline form refracting the emergency lighting in fractured patterns. "You just picked it up like it weighed nothing." "It doesn't weigh much," Emma said defensively. "It's maybe 200 grams of—" "It just caused a station-wide structural crisis," Kael'thas interrupted. "That band, when you dropped it, registered on our sensors as if we'd loaded an emergency cargo pod filled with neutronium onto the deck." Emma looked at the wrap on her shoulder, then at them, then back at the wrap. "Oh my God," she breathed. "Oh my God, what am I?" Kael'thas's comm unit chimed with an incoming priority transmission. He answered it automatically, still staring at Emma. "This is the Galactic Council Emergency Response Command," a voice crackled through the speaker, tight with barely controlled panic. "Station Commander Azila, what have you done? We're reading gravitational anomalies that suggest you've lost containment on a stellar mass object. Respond immediately." Azila's eyes, all 4 of them, remained fixed on Emma Johnson. "We haven't lost containment on anything, Command," she said quietly. "We've just discovered what humans actually are. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please, double-check responses." Emma's hands went to her shoulder wrap, checking the Velcro fastening for the 3rd time in as many seconds. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear. I had no idea that this was—" She gestured vaguely at herself, at the wrap, at everything. How is this even possible? How do humans not know about this? Kael'thas pulled himself fully upright, his medical training kicking in despite the paradigm-shattering revelations of the past few minutes. That's what I don't understand. Dr. Johnson, how do humans survive their own gravitational fields? You should be crushing yourselves under your own mass. Your cardiovascular systems alone would need to be... He stopped, pulled up a medical file on his console. Emma Johnson's intake physical from 6 months ago. Your heart, he said slowly, reading data he'd glanced at 100 times before, but never really understood. Your cardiovascular system operates at pressures that should rupture your blood vessels. Your bone density is 40% higher than any species we've classified. Your muscle-to-mass ratio suggests you're constantly operating under high-gravity conditions. Well, yeah, Emma said, confusion replacing her panic. That's just normal. For humans, we have to pump blood up to our brains against gravity. Our bones need to support our weight, our muscles. She stopped. Her face went white. What? We don't have... Oh no! What? Azila demanded. What did you just realize? Emma's hand slowly rose to cover her mouth. When she spoke, her voice was hollow. The gravity on Earth. We always assumed it came from the planet, from Earth's mass. But you're saying... She looked at Vexthul. You're saying I generate a gravitational field of 9.8 meters per second squared? Yes, Vexthul confirmed. That's Earth's surface gravity, Emma whispered. That's exactly Earth's surface gravity. The silence that followed was so profound that Kael'thas could hear his own cardiovascular system working overtime, still recovering from the earlier stress. Vexthul's crystalline structure began refracting light in rapid, chaotic patterns, the equivalent of frantic calculation. How many humans are on Earth? About 8 billion, Emma said faintly. 8 billion, Vexthul repeated. His form went completely still for a moment. Then he turned to his portable physics console and began entering calculations with an intensity that bordered on manic. Numbers cascaded across the holographic display, equations building on equations, each one more complex than the last. No, he breathed. No, that's impossible. That would mean... What? Azila pressed. What would it mean? Vexthul looked up, and if a crystalline being could look horrified, he managed it. Earth's gravity isn't generated by the planet. The planet is just rock. Mass, yes, but not enough to generate that gravitational field. The gravity that humans evolved in, that they think of as normal, that they've built their entire civilization around. He gestured at Emma with one geometric limb. It's coming from them. Your species is your planet's gravity. That's insane, Emma said automatically, but her voice lacked conviction. That would mean that every human on Earth is constantly generating a gravitational field, strong enough that, collectively, you've created the environment you evolved in, Vexthul finished. You're not adapted to Earth's gravity. Earth's gravity is adapted to you. You came first. The gravitational field came second. The planet is just where you're standing. Kael'thas felt his worldview cracking like Vexthul's crystalline structure had during the incident. How are any of your structures still standing? Your buildings, your cities, they'd be constantly subjected to gravitational stress that would tear apart anything we've ever constructed. Emma opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. We build them to withstand. Her eyes went very wide. Oh my God, we build everything to survive us. What do you mean? Azila asked, though from her tone, Kael'thas suspected she was beginning to understand. Our construction standards, Emma said, her voice picking up speed as realization cascaded through her mind. We have these building codes, engineering requirements. We always thought they were just safety margins, being cautious, accounting for earthquakes and weather, but they're not. They're not safety margins at all. They're the minimum requirements for structures to survive being constantly subjected to the gravitational fields of the humans who use them. Azila's comm unit chimed. She answered it without taking her eyes off Emma. Station Commander, this is Council Physics Director R. Hill. We're bringing in a full expert panel. Keep that human absolutely still until we understand what we're dealing with. We're establishing a holo conference link now. The air above Kael'thas's medical console shimmered, and suddenly a dozen holographic figures materialized. Council representatives, physics specialists, xenobiologists, engineers. All of them were frantically consulting their own displays, running their own calculations. This explains everything, one of them, a Quellan physicist whose name badge read Dr. Sina Ra, said without preamble. Human vessels. We've always noted that human ships are grotesquely overbuilt. Structural supports that seem excessive, hull plating 3 times thicker than necessary, power systems rated for loads that should never occur in normal operations. They're not overbuilt, another voice interrupted, an engineer, judging by the technical readouts cascading behind his holographic form. They're built to human standards. They're built to survive having humans on board. The cargo requirements, a logistics coordinator added, her voice rising with dawning comprehension. Humans always list their cargo weights higher than our sensors read. We thought it was calculation errors, unit conversion problems, but they're not measuring the cargo. They're measuring the cargo plus the gravitational field generated by the human crew handling it. Emma was shaking her head slowly, continuously, like she could deny reality through sheer persistence. This can't be right. We use elevators. We have stairs. We build skyscrapers hundreds of meters tall. If we were all generating these kinds of gravitational fields, nothing would work. But it does work, Kael'thas said quietly. For you, because you've engineered everything in your civilization to account for it. You don't think of it as extreme gravity-resistant construction. You think of it as normal construction. Because for you, it is. Your physical capabilities, Vexia added from her monitoring station. She'd pulled up comparative species data. Humans can casually lift and move objects that other species require powered assistance to handle. We thought you were just exceptionally strong, but you're not, are you? You're just moving objects in your own gravitational fields. What you consider normal strength is you counteracting gravitational forces that would immobilize most species. The medical devices, Kael'thas said, a new horror dawning on him. Dr. Johnson, that shoulder wrap, you said your physical therapist recommended it? Yeah, Emma said weakly. For my rotator cuff. I injured it at the gym, doing overhead presses. The weighted band is supposed to help with... She stopped, stared at her shoulder. It's not weighted. Or it is, but that's not what it's doing. I told them my shoulder hurt worse in low-gravity environments. I told them it felt better with weight on it. I thought, oh my God, I thought I was just unconsciously compensating for the lack of gravity. But I wasn't compensating for the lack of gravity. I was compensating for the lack of me. You were suppressing your own gravitational field, Vex Thule confirmed. Unconsciously, instinctively. Every human who uses therapeutic weighted devices is probably doing the same thing. You've developed an entire medical industry around unconsciously managing your gravitational output. One of the council holograms, an elderly Ajarayan with decorative neural implants, leaned forward. This changes everything we understand about human integration into galactic society. Every human currently serving on mixed-species vessels or stations is a potential gravitational hazard. Every human habitat, every human facility, every human colony is built to standards we can't match because we've never needed to account for the occupants generating the gravitational environment. Emma laughed. It was a high, slightly hysterical sound. So what you're telling me is that we're basically walking around being heavy? Like cosmically heavy? And we just never noticed because everyone around us was equally heavy. Yes, Vex Thule said simply. And my shoulder wrap, my medical device that I bought at a sports medicine store for $45, is the only thing standing between me and accidentally crushing everything around me? Yes, Kael'thas confirmed. Emma looked down at the Velcro fastening on her shoulder, then at the room full of aliens who'd been sent sprawling when she'd removed it, then at the holographic council, representatives whose entire understanding of physics was currently being rewritten. "I need to sit down," she said. "Please don't," Azila said immediately, "not until we can reinforce the furniture." Kael'thas was still staring at Emma's medical file, pieces clicking into place with the inevitability of a diagnosis finally becoming clear. "That's why you have so many joint problems." Emma blinked at the sudden shift in topic. "What?" "Your intake physical listed chronic issues with your knees, lower back, and shoulders. I noted it was unusual. You're only 32 years old, in excellent physical condition, yet you have wear patterns I'd expect to see in someone twice your age." He looked up from the display. "You're not just living in your gravitational field, you're carrying it. Constantly. Every moment of every day, your musculoskeletal system is supporting not just your body mass, but the gravitational force you generate." "Yeah," Emma said slowly. "Knees, backs, shoulders. Humans complain about those constantly. We have entire medical specialties dedicated to joint problems, physical therapy, orthopedics, sports medicine." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "We're literally carrying ourselves around." "Every human vessel we've scanned showed excessive mass readings," Azila said, pulling up data on her command tablet. "Transport ships that should register at 40,000 metric tons reading at 65,000. Station modules designed for 200 occupants showing stress patterns consistent with 350. We filed reports. Suspected humans were smuggling dense materials, using unauthorized cargo holds, falsifying manifests." Emma let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "That's just us. That's just humans existing on those ships. We thought your vessels were weirdly light. We kept wondering why council ships seemed so fragile. Why you used materials we'd consider insufficient for structural integrity. We weren't being superior or judgmental. We genuinely didn't understand how you built things that actually worked." One of the holographic council members, Dr. Sinara, the Quellan physicist, was furiously typing calculations. "Your athletes, human sporting events. We've documented humans breaking what should be physically impossible records for strength, speed, endurance. We attributed it to genetic variation, evolutionary advantages, training regimens." She looked up, her expression one of academic epiphany mixed with existential dread. "They're not breaking records through superior biology. They're breaking records by managing their own gravitational output." Emma actually laughed at that, a genuine, slightly manic laugh. "We call it training. Just training. Learning to move more efficiently, building strength, improving technique. But we're really learning to manage our own personal gravity wells without even knowing that's what we're doing." A sharp, alert tone cut through the conversation. Kael'thas spun back to his monitoring station, and his eyes widened. "The patient," he breathed. "Patient 09, the Velcrin ambassador." Everyone's attention snapped to the medical pod. The gravitational stress readings that had been climbing steadily for hours, threatening to crush the ambassador's dense skeletal structure into powder, were dropping. Rapidly. The cellular collapse was reversing. Bone density was stabilizing, then improving. Vital signs were climbing out of critical ranges. "What changed?" Azila demanded. Kael'thas checked the timeline, cross-referencing it with the gravitational sensor logs. Emma secured her wrap. The moment her gravitational field was fully suppressed again, the patient began recovering. "No," Emma said, her face draining of color. "No, that can't be right. I was trying to help. I came here to help. I'm a trauma surgeon. I save lives. I don't—" "You were crushing them," Vexthul said, not unkindly. "The patient was being exposed to your gravitational field, not constantly but in passing. You probably walked past this medical bay yesterday, or the day before. Maybe you stopped to check on another patient, stood near this room for a few minutes. That was enough proximity to your gravity well to begin cellular damage in a species that evolved in high-gravity conditions." I was in this bay yesterday, Emma said numbly. Patient 09 was admitted around 1400 hours. I was here at 1500 doing rounds on a Quellen patient in the next pod over. I stood right there, she pointed, for maybe 10 minutes, reviewing their charts, discussing treatment options with the nursing staff. 10 minutes of exposure, Kael'thas confirmed, checking the timestamps. That's all it took. 10 minutes near a human who wasn't even aware she was generating a gravitational field strong enough to begin crushing a Velcrin's skeleton. The holographic council representatives erupted into simultaneous discussion. Protocols, procedures, safety requirements, facility modifications. Through it all, Azila's voice cut with command authority. Immediate priority directive, she announced. All humans currently serving on council facilities, vessels, or stations are to report their current use of gravitational dampening devices. Effective immediately, all therapeutic devices, weighted bands, compression garments, or any other equipment that humans use for joint support or physical therapy are to be classified as critical safety equipment. You mean my shoulder brace is staying on? Emma asked weakly. Great. It was helping with the pain anyway. Azila's comm unit exploded with incoming transmissions. She routed them to the main display, and suddenly dozens of reports were flooding in from across council space. Human medical officer on station Kepler 9 requesting clarification on gravitational dampening devices. Subject reports using knee compression sleeves and a weighted vest during off-duty hours. Human engineer on transport vessel Meridian acknowledges use of therapeutic weighted belt for lower back support. Requests confirmation this is what command is referring to. Human agricultural specialist on Colony Outpost 77 reports ankle weights worn during work shifts to help with posture. Currently experiencing equipment malfunctions in all facilities she regularly accesses. Human diplomatic attaché to the Azarain embassy reports compression bodysuit worn for workout recovery. Embassy staff has been reporting unusual gravitational fluctuations for the past 3 weeks. The reports kept coming. Dozens of humans scattered across council space, all using various medical devices that they'd never thought twice about. Weighted clothing, compression garments, therapeutic bands. All of them, unknowingly, suppressing gravitational fields that would have been catastrophic if fully released. We need to establish proper protocols, one of the council engineers said through the HoloLink. Human-accessible facilities need reinforced structural support, gravitational dampening fields in shared spaces. We can't just keep relying on humans to wear the equivalent of safety equipment without even knowing it's safety equipment. Agreed. Dr. Sinara added, we need to develop proper dampening technology, something more reliable than sports medicine equipment purchased for $45. She nodded at Emma, at a store that had no idea it was manufacturing gravitational suppression devices. Emma was still staring at patient 09, watching the Velcrin ambassador's vital signs continue to stabilize. I nearly killed them, just by existing near them, just by walking past their room doing my job. You didn't know, Kael'thas said firmly. None of you knew. Humans have been integrating into council space for 2 decades, and we never detected this because you were all unconsciously managing it. Every human who complained of joint pain and sought treatment was prescribed weighted devices that happened to suppress your gravitational fields. Every human who wore compression garments or therapeutic bands was accidentally protecting everyone around them. The patient is stable, Vexia reported, moving them to a separate recovery ward, one that hasn't had human foot traffic, should complete the healing process. Do it, Azila ordered. Then to Emma, Dr. Johnson, you're cleared to continue your duties with proper monitoring. Your wrap stays on at all times. We'll be installing gravitational sensors throughout the medical bay and issuing you a personal monitor. If that wrap starts to fail, or if you need to remove it for any reason, you alert me immediately. Emma nodded slowly, her hand unconsciously going to her shoulder to check the Velcro again. I understand. She looked around at the damaged medical bay. the stressed bulkheads, the monitoring equipment still showing elevated gravitational readings even with her field suppressed. I had no idea. How did we not know? How did an entire species not realize they were doing this? Because, Vexthul said quietly, when everyone around you is the same, the abnormal becomes normal. You evolved in the gravitational field you created. You built your civilization to withstand it. Every human you've ever met has been exactly like you. From your perspective, you're not unusually heavy. You're just human. Emma laughed, a broken, exhausted sound. Just human. Yeah, turns out that's a lot more than we thought it was. Commander, one of the council holograms interrupted, we're establishing emergency protocols now. All human personnel will be issued proper monitoring equipment and backup dampening devices within 48 hours. Medical facilities are being retrofitted starting immediately. Azila nodded, acknowledged. And someone contact Earth. Their planetary government needs to know what their species actually is. That, Emma muttered, is going to be one hell of a conversation. 3 days later, the Galactic Council Emergency Medical Facility looked almost normal again. Almost, if you ignored the new gravitational sensors installed every 10 meters, the reinforced deck plating throughout Medical Section 7, and the bright yellow safety markers that now designated human accessible zones, with appropriate structural ratings. Emma stood at her monitoring station, reviewing post-operative reports for a Quellen patient who'd come through surgery beautifully. Her shoulder wrap, now officially classified as Critical Gravitational Dampening Equipment Class H, sat snugly in place, its Velcro fastening checked and rechecked by both her and the automated monitoring system that beeped softly at her hip every 30 seconds. Your gravitational field integrity is at 94.7% suppression, Kael'thas observed, glancing at his own medical station display. That's actually better than your baseline from 3 days ago. Emma patted her shoulder. Turns out when you're actually consistent about wearing your physical therapy equipment instead of taking it off whenever it gets annoying, it works better. Who knew? So what you're saying, Kael'thas said with what might have been the beginning of humor in his voice, is that you need to keep doing your physical therapy. For everyone's safety, yes, Emma replied, matching his tone. Nothing motivates consistent medical device usage like learning you'll accidentally crush your coworkers if you forget to wear it. Down the corridor, Station Commander Azila was in conference with a team of council engineers. Emma could hear fragments of their conversation echoing through the improved acoustic dampening, another upgrade, apparently necessary because human footsteps generated micro-gravitational pulses that had been causing harmonic resonances in the old wall panels. Complete redesign of decks 4 through 12. Gravitational shielding in all shared recreational facilities. Structural reinforcement rated for sustained human occupancy. Emma drifted closer, curious despite herself. The holographic blueprints floating above Azila's conference table showed the station's entire infrastructure being systematically rebuilt, section by section. Wait, Emma interrupted. You're rebuilding the station because of us? Azila looked up, her 4 arms pausing mid-gesture. We're rebuilding our understanding of physics because of you. The station modifications are just a practical application. One of the engineers, a Thorellian whose crystalline carapace reflected the blueprint's blue light, nodded enthusiastically. This is the most exciting engineering challenge in 3 generations. We're having to completely rethink our approach to structural load-bearing, gravitational compensation, and material stress tolerances. We're also, Azila added more dryly, having to explain to the council treasury why our budget for routine station maintenance has increased by 4,000%. Emma winced. Sorry about that. Don't be, the Thorellian engineer said immediately. Do you have any idea how boring station engineering has been for the past century? Install this standard module, use these standard materials, follow these standard protocols. Now we're pioneering entirely new fields of gravitational architecture. This is wonderful. Across the medical bay, Vexthul was setting up for what appeared to be a presentation. A small crowd of holographic attendees was already assembling: physics specialists, xenobiologists, engineers, and at least 3 members of the Council Science Directorate. Dr. Johnson, Vexthul called, waving one geometric limb in her direction. I'm presenting my preliminary paper on human gravitational phenomena and implications. Would you be willing to consult? We have several questions about human physiological responses to gravitational field management. Emma blinked. I'm a doctor, not a physicist. Kael'thas looked up from his console. You're a human. That makes you both. That's not, Emma started, then stopped. Sighed. Yeah, okay, that's fair. What do you need to know? She spent the next 20 minutes answering questions that ranged from, how often do humans experience joint pain? Constantly. To, is there a correlation between human athletic performance and gravitational field suppression? Apparently yes, though no human had ever thought about it that way. To, do humans have any traditional practices that might have evolved as unconscious gravitational management techniques? Meditation, yoga, and something called grounding exercises were now being seriously analyzed by council physicists as potential gravitational regulation methods. By the time the presentation concluded, Emma's head was spinning with implications she'd never considered. Vexthul's paper proposed that human cultural practices, architecture, social behaviors, and even psychological patterns might all have evolved partly as responses to existing in a collective gravitational field that humans themselves generated. So you're saying, Emma summarized, that when humans talk about feeling weighed down by stress or carrying heavy burdens, we might be unconsciously describing actual gravitational phenomena. It's a working hypothesis, Vexthul confirmed, one that's already generating significant interest in xenopsychology circles. This is insane, Emma muttered. The medical bay doors opened and a new arrival stepped through, a human, Emma noted with interest. Young, maybe mid-20s, wearing a standard council uniform and a nervous expression. Behind him, a Quellan orientation officer was consulting a datapad with evident concern. Dr. Emma Johnson? The Quellan asked. This is Marcus Chen, newly assigned to station engineering. Council protocols now require that all incoming human personnel receive a gravitational safety briefing from existing human staff before beginning their duties. Emma stared. A gravitational safety briefing? Yes, the Quellan confirmed, utterly serious. Please review proper dampening device usage, emergency protocols in case of device failure, and appropriate conduct in shared facilities. Marcus looked between them, confused. I'm sorry, I don't understand. What's this about dampening devices? I was told this was a standard orientation. Emma couldn't help it. She started laughing. Welcome to the station. Try not to destroy it. Also that knee brace you're wearing. Don't take it off. Ever. It's not actually a knee brace. It's the only thing standing between you and accidentally crushing everyone around you with your personal gravitational field. Marcus blinked. My... What? Oh boy, Emma said, still chuckling. Okay, take a seat, carefully, and let me explain why humans are apparently walking physics violations. By the end of her shift, Emma had conducted 3 more gravitational safety briefings, consulted on Vexthul's paper twice, and signed off on new medical protocols that treated human therapeutic devices with the same critical importance as life support equipment. She was exhausted, her shoulder ached despite the wrap, and she'd just learned that her entire species had been unconsciously warping space-time for their entire evolutionary history. You know, she said to Kael'thas as they reviewed the day's patient reports, back home, we just call this Tuesday. Kael'thas made a sound that might have been a laugh. On this station, we're calling it the new normal, though I suspect council physicists will be calling it the greatest discovery of the century for quite some time. Emma's monitoring station beeped softly. A new patient arriving, nothing urgent, just a routine post-operative check. She pulled up the file, confirmed her gravitational dampening equipment was secure, and headed for the examination room. Behind her, Keltas watched the gravitational sensors track her movement across the medical bay like they were vital signs for the station itself, which, in a sense, they were. In orbit above them, Council engineers were already beginning work on the first human-integrated station designed from the ground up to account for gravitational entities in residence. Across Council space, protocols were being rewritten, facilities were being upgraded, and physics textbooks were being revised to include an entire new chapter on human gravitational phenomena. And in the medical bay of the Galactic Council Emergency Medical Facility, Dr. Emma Johnson was back at work, saving lives one patient at a time, her gravitational field safely suppressed by a $45 shoulder wrap from a sports medicine store on Earth. "Hey, Kael'thas," she called over her shoulder as she entered the examination room. "After this patient, I'm making a coffee run. Anyone want anything?" Kael'thas checked his console, which now displayed Emma's gravitational field status alongside standard medical bay readings. All green, all stable. "I'll take a synthcaf," he called back. "And, Dr. Johnson?" "Yeah? Please be careful with the serving containers. We just got them reinforced." Emma's laugh echoed down the corridor. "I'm buying, carefully, story of my life now." The medical bay doors closed. The station hummed with its usual activity. Patients being treated, staff going about their duties, systems running smoothly. Everything normal, everything routine. Except now, normal meant accounting for the fact that humans were walking gravitational anomalies held in check by physical therapy equipment, and routine meant monitoring space-time distortions like checking blood pressure. The galaxy had learned what humans really were, and somehow, miraculously, everyone was still managing to have a perfectly ordinary Tuesday.